This is the main menu where you can start a new game, load a saved game, or view the help menu. Let's start a new game. Here you can see the 6 playable classes, their stats, and their passive abilities. There's the Warrior, Black Mage, White Mage, Archer, Spearman, and Monk. Let's start a game with a Warrior, Black Mage, and White Mage, and give them names. You will now be started in an open world where you can move around using the WASD keys, and will encounter random battles after moving. You will see your 3 characters you've created on a 3x3 grid. You will also see 3 enemies in front of you. On the left, you will see the name, class, level, health, class resource, and time gauge of each character. When a character runs out of health, they will need to be revived before they can continue to fight. If all run out of health, then the game is over and you will have to return to your last save point. The class resource is unique to each class except for the mages, and each have a unique way of charging. The time gauge is what fills up at a constant rate and decides when a character is able to attack. Now for the basics of combat. You can see here that there is a yellow box around this character, and the border of the corresponding stat box is also highlighted. This means that the character is selected for movement. You can use the WASD keys to move that character around the 3x3 grid, but not to a space already occupied. You can also use the Q and E keys to change what character is selected for movement. You may also pause the game at any time by pressing escape. Once a time gauge has been filled, the character can now attack. You will see the queue of characters able to attack on the right side. The character currently selected for attack will also have a red arrow above their head. Use the up and down arrows to select the attack and the right arrow to confirm. You can also use the left arrow to go back in the menu, or if in the base menu, send that character to the back of your attack queue. Some attacks may require a certain amount of a class resource or have a cooldown, so they may not always be available. You can also use items in the item menu, which will either be used on that character or in the space directly ahead of that character. Be careful because positioning is very important when attacking. A character will always attack in front of them, so if an ally is blocking the path, then they will inflict team damage. Also be aware of the range of a character. Melee characters such as the Warrior and Monk can only reach the space directly in front of them, so they must be in the front row to deal damage. The Archer and Mages are ranged, so they can attack from the back row, and the Spearmen can attack from the middle row. Now you will see that there are red boxes appearing on the grid. This is an indicator that an enemy will attack that space. Move your characters away from those squares in order to avoid damage. Be aware, some enemies may attack entire columns at a time. Once an enemy has been killed, the remaining enemies will randomly move around to keep you on your toes. Once all enemies are defeated, you will see the victory screen. Here is where experience, money, and loot are awarded. If a character gains enough experience, then they level up, replenishing their health and MP if they're a mage, and give them a boost in stats. Passives are important to know about each class. When the Warrior takes damage from an attack that attacks the entire column, he will block any incoming damage to allies behind him. The Black Mage's time gauge fills faster, and he also deals more damage when he is in the back row. The White Mage's time gauge also fills faster from the back row, and her basic attack heals allies instead of damaging them. The Archer has a chance when attacking to incur a critical strike. The Spearman, even though technically melee, can attack from the middle row. And the Monk cannot equip weapons, however his attacks are incredibly strong. Each class resource charges in its own way as well. The Warrior uses Rage, which starts at 0 at the beginning of each battle, but charges every time he is attacked. The Mages have MP, which can be replenished with MP potions. The Archer uses arrows as special attacks, which can be found or purchased. The Spearman uses energy, which charges over time during battles. And the Monk uses charms, which fills up by 1 every time he inflicts a final blow to an enemy. Now that we are back in the open world, you can start to explore. You may notice that there are different types of terrain. When you cross over into a different terrain, you will be accompanied by a corresponding change of music. Whenever you encounter a battle, the enemies and battle background and music will also correspond to that terrain. Some of these terrains harbor stronger enemies and some with more advanced AI, so be careful where you travel. You can also press M when in the open world to view the world map, which also displays your location. At this time, only a portion of the map has been filled. If you travel to the first town, you will enter a new map where you can meet NPCs by walking up to them and pressing enter. Currently there is an NPC for an innkeeper where you can replenish your character's stats for money, a vendor where you can buy weapons, armor, and other items, and sell any of your items. And a quest giver who holds different types of quests, such as kill quests or collection quests. When in the open world, you may press escape to view your character menu. This displays stats about each of your characters as well as what equipment they have equipped. By using the up and down arrow keys and enter, you can select options in the menu. If you select abilities and then select a character, you will be able to read about the specific abilities that character has unlocked. If you see that an ability is white rather than grayed out, that means you can select and use it outside of combat. By selecting inventory, you can see all the items in your inventory, and the items in white can be used outside of combat. For example, you may use a potion or equip an item to a character. Certain pieces of armor and weapons are specific to classes, so they may not always be usable on your current characters. In quests, you can see the current quests you have unlocked and how close you are to completing them. In options, you can change the relative volume of the music and game sounds. By selecting save, you can save your current game to one of the 20 save slots, which will save your character's stats, inventory, money, position in the world, and quest and story progression. The final thing I'd like to talk about is boss battles, something that is still currently in the works. There will be many forms of boss battles throughout the story, each with a unique kind of battle. In these boss battles, it will not matter what column you attack from, as long as you're in range of the boss, you will deal damage to them. This boss in particular deals damage in different patterns, so it is very important to keep your team moving. Thank you and have fun.